Hi, I'm Ryan Daws, Senior Editor at TechForge Media, and with me today is Stefan Vallin, who is the Head of Product at Avassa. So Stefan, could you tell me what the key objective of Avassa is?
Yes, good question. So if you're a software organization and you develop containerized applications, today it's fairly easy to deploy them in the cloud, but it's challenging if you have hundreds of places out there where you would like to run your applications. And we might call that the edge, or we might call it on-site. So a centralized solution to deploy your containers inside your customers' networks or your own enterprise network that is spread in many places.
Okay.
That's at the heart of it.
Brilliant. And so in what ways can your solution be customized to an enterprise's specific needs?
So the cool thing I would say is, first of all, the standard of software containers. I mean, that has really changed the market. So any software organization today can build a container, and that actually means something. It's a very well-defined thing. So it doesn't matter for us if it's an edge AI application, if it's a point of sales application, or a control system for the robot. Our platform can take any of those because they are standardized containers. So to your question, the deployment is so easy, so it actually doesn't really have to be customized. And you can avoid large integration projects, having sort of system integrators doing the thing. So it's rather no, you don't have to. A good thing.
Brilliant. And so what types of customers does Avassa have?
Good question. So we see typically two categories of customers. The obvious one are, you're an enterprise. Let's say you're a retailer, let's say you run several mines or factories, and you need a platform to deploy your containerized applications on all your locations. So that's an obvious customer category. But what we see more and more, imagine again a retailer or a mine and you buy software from the different ISVs. So the ISVs also need a way, in some way, to deploy their software solution into their customers on premises. And that has been tedious. Either they have sort of ship a USB stick or an email and ask the customer IT department to install it on all sites, which always takes time, and then you also run blind, you can't really support your customers. Or you actually have to send people around to do the job. So in this way, we help the ISVs, they can offer their product as a service, although it runs on site. So those are the two, enterprises and ISVs, I would say.
And how does the onboarding process work for a new customer?
Good question. So, of course, if we're talking about running something at the edge, you need some compute out there at the edge. In most of the cases, our customers, they have their compute, and we're very agnostic, can be Intel or ARM, and some Linux flavor on top of that. So there is some compute out there in our customer sites, and in order to bootstrap this, there is a little agent, we can call him our edge enforcer. So you install that, it's a one-liner to install it on all the computers out there that you need something. Once that is installed, it pops up, it calls home, and it shows up in the portal. And from that portal now you can see all your retails, all your factories, and then you can start deploy your application. So it's a really super simple bootstrapping of the whole process.
Fantastic. And so what makes you stand out from your rivals?
There are a couple of features we've learned, and we also learned along the last years when we talked to customers why they did choose us, etc. One thing I would say is, for many customers, being fully autonomous on the site is very important. So if you have a personal safety application in a mine, it's very likely that the network goes up and down. And our clusters on-premise are totally autonomous. They do self-healing, they do failovers without any connection to the central cloud. So that is a very important feature. Another very important feature, I would say, is day two. That the first thing is to deploy, but once you've deployed, you have an operations thing. You need to make sure that the application works well in all retail stores, in all factories, and we give deep insight into the application health on all those premises. What would say that's number two. And then I would say an overall thing that from day one when we built the product is to focus on the application layer. There are many solutions that are more focused on the infrastructure, on managing several clusters, and that leaves the application team a little bit dry. I have my application, I just need a single button to deploy it. And the solution we have really gives the application developers a way of, with a single click, deploy it. So application centricity, totally autonomous sites, and monitoring day 2 observability. Those are the 3 ones I would say.
Cool. And I have a feeling the answer might be not partnering with Avassa, but what mistakes do you find that enterprises make when getting started with edge computing?
So yeah, good question. So when people start playing with edge computing, typically a bit of sort of try it out and play with it. What we see many customers do is that they use the tools they already have. So there are tools that works well for central clouds. There are tool chains that works well if you have 1 or 2 or 3 data centers and you want to deploy your containers to that. And so all engineers will reuse our tools. And then you try out, okay, let's try this at the edge, and then in your lab you have 3 or 4 edge nodes, and it works well. And then suddenly, how do you scale that into hundreds or thousands of disconnected sites? And that's a very typical pattern. We see that the first meeting, they say, we have something we will try in-house, but then after a year, they tried it in the lab, worked well, but it didn't roll out. So I would say, trying tools for central clouds at large-scale edge is the typical, most common mistake, I would say.
Great. So are there any specific trends in edge computing that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I would say, for example, here at the trade show, edge computing IoT is sort of merging. I mean, going back in history, if you said IoT, that was typically real-time embedded operating systems. You sort of flash the application into it with very long cycles. Many customers we're talking with today is just about where they will move from embedded OSs in the edge to open compute, standardized Linux and containers. So that's a super trend with edge and IoT sort of totally connected on containers and Linux. I would say that is one of the biggest trends. Another trend we see is you can always think that edge AI is an empty phrase, but we see it actually becoming very live. Mostly in the industry, we have customers in the industry, in mining, and there's always kind of a camera or a LiDAR device, and you can't pipe that back to the cloud. You need to have the local inference engine. You train it in the cloud, but you need to run it local. So lots of applications around video processing, LiDAR data processing, needing to run the inference engine on-prem. So that's certainly an application. It's not just research, that's coming live for sure.
Yeah, certainly that merge of all those technologies is
Yes.
very powerful.
Yeah.
That's why here at the Expo we have Edge Computing Expo and AI Expo and IoT Expo
exactly.
all combined under the
They're
one.
coming together, all
Exactly,
of them. Yeah,
definitely.
good point.
Pleasure speaking to you, Stefan. And
nice to meet you.
Take care.
Thank you.